say, well, I'm sorry, we're gonna change it? Why, once it's implemented, are we stuck with it?
Right. One of the challenges you always see is, I'm not sure I can think of a federal bureaucracy, a federal department, a federal agency that once started ever ends. Once they start, they just go. And so it is important that we really address this. Let's look, I'm glad you brought up the Affordable Care Act. You want to do, and we've got the question directly on this. I'm sitting in Delta, Colorado. About a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, I went down to the hospital, visited with them. Very concerned at the hospital about the Affordable Care Act, the impact that it's going to have in terms of delivery of health care here, the small rural hospital. So we've got some senior citizens that are in there, maybe some that just became a senior citizen by virtue of a birthday over the last year or two. I've talked to far too many, we may have some in here that cannot find a doctor that will take Medicare. We have state rate filings coming out of the state of Colorado that are demonstrating that we're going to see those private medical insurance policies going up to the tune of 134% and higher. So let's go back to when the original discussion was taking place on the Affordable Care Act. What could we all agree on? Insurance was too high. We needed to have something that was going to be really affordable. For those of us that live in rural Colorado, in rural America, we wanted to be able to have access to medical care. Did the Affordable Care Act, and that needs, in my belief, to be the litmus test for this, did it achieve those goals? Does it have the prospect of achieving those goals? And the answer is no. This is a bad piece of legislation that, again, was an overarching, comprehensive piece of legislation that was left. We've had better than 22,000 pages of regulations that have now been issued, and they're still coming. I'm talking small businesses that have no idea what their costs are going to be. I just visited with a lady over in Gunnison. She has 4 Pizza Huts, has franchise. She's cutting her employment down to 29 hours. Did she like to do that? She was crying. She was telling me, and she described one of her managers who was weeping as she had to break that news to her. But she simply can't afford it, and she doesn't know what the rules are going to be because they're changing on a daily basis. So when we're addressing this, is there a better way? I'm co-sponsoring a piece of legislation by a doctor, actually, Tom Price out of Georgia. He's a member of Congress. He actually talked to the medical community. He actually has visited with people who are having a lot of challenges. And would it be a more desirable scenario to do what many of us have suggested for an extended period of time, to be able to allow small businesses to be able to come together to form real groups, to be able to negotiate better insurance rates, to be able to incentivize private medical health care savings accounts rather than punishing them as the Affordable Health Care Act does. Would it be a good idea for us to really bring these groups together and actually negotiate better long-term care for individuals, to make sure that we do have a pool for pre-existing condition? And this is one of the greater challenges that I see, particularly in Washington. We're either completely for or you're completely against something. I've got a brother that's got diabetes, pre-existing condition. Every person in this room has had a mother, maybe a sister, a daughter, and wouldn't you hate it if tomorrow they're diagnosed with breast cancer and we're all of a sudden uninsurable? That's not acceptable. We can deal with that, and there's some provisions in Tom Price's plan to actually be able to do that. And we need to be able to have something that the administration never broached. Every medical professional that I've talked to, hospital institutions as well, we need to have real tort reform in this country.